Chapter 2. Either Renzetti was taken out of that morgue or he was never there. But either way, I knew he'd show up here eventually. The Renzetti compound was impressive. The house gave up its rhythm slow. That's how it always went if a man had the patience to sit still for it. First face I clocked was Dominic Fasano, bagman for the Renzetti crew going back further than I cared to count. Behind him, bigger, a guy named Petrosky, who used to run muscle out of a chop shop on 4th Avenue before it burned down under circumstances nobody ever looked into too hard. Familiar faces, familiar rot. Then a third man came down the steps, buttoning his coat. Young, 30 maybe. A walk I couldn't place, and a face I was sure I'd never seen in my life. Except I had. The certainty came up through my chest before my brain could argue with it. That cold drop a detective learns never to ignore. You know this, even if you don't know why yet. I sat forward, elbows on the wheel, running the face against every mug shot in every squad room and every dive bar I'd set foot in over 13 years. Came up with nothing but the itch. Something about the jaw. The way he paused at the bottom step and looked up the street, unhurried, like he'd done this 100 times and would do it 100 more. My hand found the flask before I gave it permission to. One swallow, then a second. Burn, familiar, awful, calming, all three at once. And it was only after I screwed the cap back on that the shame caught up with me. I'd promised Tracy. Stood in her kitchen with Georgetta's crayon horses taped to the fridge and promised her, after the second DUI, that the bottle was done. She never said out loud what I knew she was thinking every time my hands shook or my temper flared. That maybe if I'd been sharper that night, cleaner, a half-second faster reading that alley for what it was, Tex would still be walking around complaining about his recorder. I didn't finish that thought. I never let myself. The knock on the window came like a gunshot in the quiet, and my hand was halfway to my hip before my brain caught up with the fact I didn't carry anymore. Hinchman's face grinned through the glass. Renzetti's old muscle did a stretch upstate, came out meaner for it. Well. I rolled the window down because there wasn't much choice about it now. Calloway, you back in the game, or you just like sitting outside dead men's houses for fun? He didn't wait for an answer. Leaned in close enough I got the cigarettes off him. Tapped the roof twice like a period at the end of a sentence. Shove off, before somebody who likes you less comes along and makes you. I drove 2 blocks, cut the lights, sat there with my hand still on the wheel. Hinchman wanted me gone. Meant Hinchman didn't want eyes on that house tonight of all nights. Meant there was one more reason now to keep watching than there'd been an hour ago. I circled the block once, found a new angle off a side street where a delivery van gave me half a screen to work with, and stayed until the lights in the townhouse went dark, one window at a time, and nothing else moved. Only then did I point the car home. My apartment was cold the way it always was that time of year, radiator clanking through its usual argument with itself. I didn't bother with the lights, sat on the edge of the bed, pulled the recorder out, thumbed it on. Tuesday. Fenwick's hands were shaking. Face on the Bensonhurst steps, I don't know, but I know it from somewhere. I clicked it off, started again, clicked it back on. Figure that out tomorrow. Saying it out loud into the little machine didn't shake anything loose. Whoever the kid was, he stayed just out of reach. A name on the tip of a tongue that wouldn't move. I undressed slow, joints aching the way they'd started aching sometime after 40, and told myself it was nothing. Some stranger's face that only resembled somebody else's. A trick of tired eyes and a bad streetlight on 79th. I didn't believe it. 13 years on the job taught me my gut is wrong maybe one time in 20. And I'd learned the hard way, the worst way, what happens when you let that one time in 20 talk you out of listening. Lay back against the pillow a little after 4:45. Ceiling doing nothing. City doing its low, steady hum outside the window. Let my eyes close. Sleep took me somewhere kinder than the alley for once. Doyle's, the old cop bar 2 blocks off the precinct. Dartboard nobody ever bothered to level. Tex up at the line, laughing loud enough to turn heads, missing the bullseye by a mile and blaming the board instead of his aim. Buying around for guys who hadn't earned it, toasting nothing in particular because Tuesday felt like reason enough. That was Tex. Never needed an occasion. Just good company, a warm room, and people he loved close enough to reach out and touch. I slept on that memory like it was the only blanket in the apartment. For a few hours, the city let me have it.